You got into the safety business because you wanted to protect people, but somewhere along the way the job started controlling your time, your schedule, your priorities, even your income potential. What if the expertise you've built over the years in the field can give you something more? More freedom, more control, more ownership of your future. I'm Sheldon Primus, the author of 7 Steps to Starting a Profitable Safety Consulting Business and the host of the Safety Consultant Podcast, with more than 350 episodes helping safety professionals become consultants and grow their career. Consulting changed my life. In fact, I'm a full-time RVer, and one consulting contract paid for my home I live in today. Now, I help safety professionals build their own consulting practice through bi-weekly coaching calls, accountability, and personal guidance. But this program isn't for everyone. Start with the Consultant Readiness Audit at sheldon.coach.
What if everything we thought we knew about safety was just interference? From the host of the Rated R Safety Show and the founder of Safety FM comes the complete Signal Transmission Trilogy, now available in one powerful edition. Safety, in my opinion, the book that started the conversation. Safety Mutation, where the boundaries of culture, systems, and belief begin to break. And now, Safety Transmission, the final piece of the signal. For the first time, all 3 books are together in one volume. The Signal Transmission Trilogy, Complete Edition. This isn't just about compliance. It's about consciousness. It's about decoding the way we think, lead, and live, inside and outside the system. Whether you've been following the signal since the beginning or you're just now tuning in, this is the version to own. Search Signal Trilogy on Amazon or visit safetyfm.com to get your copy now.
You got into the safety business because you wanted to protect people, but somewhere along the way the job started controlling your time, your schedule, your priorities, even your income potential. What if the expertise you've built over the years in the field can give you something more? More freedom, more control, more ownership of your future. I'm Sheldon Primus, the author of 7 Steps to Starting a Profitable Safety Consulting Business and the host of the Safety Consultant Podcast, with more than 350 episodes helping safety professionals become consultants and grow their career. Consulting changed my life. In fact, I'm a full-time RVer, and one consulting contract paid for my home I live in today. Now, I help safety professionals build their own consulting practice through bi-weekly coaching calls, accountability, and personal guidance. But this program isn't for everyone. Start with the Consultant Readiness Audit at sheldon.coach.
What if everything we thought we knew about safety was just interference? From the host of the Rated R Safety Show and the founder of Safety FM comes the complete Signal Transmission Trilogy, now available in one powerful edition. Safety, in my opinion, the book that started the conversation. Safety Mutation, where the boundaries of culture, systems, and belief begin to break. And now, Safety Transmission, the final piece of the signal. For the first time, all 3 books are together in one volume. The Signal Transmission Trilogy, Complete Edition. This isn't just about compliance. It's about consciousness. It's about decoding the way we think, lead, and live, inside and outside the system. Whether you've been following the signal since the beginning or you're just now tuning in, this is the version to own. Search Signal Trilogy on Amazon or visit safetyfm.com to get your copy now.
This show is brought to you by Safety FM.
Well, hello and welcome to another edition of The Jay Allen Show. Hopefully everything is going good and grand in your neck of the woods. Thank you for coming out once again and hanging out as we do these things that we do here on Safety FM. Thank you for taking a look at what we always have going on here. It's been very exciting seeing all the people coming out to Safety FM Plus to see what it's all about. Hopefully you are enjoying the video streaming service that's available everywhere, of course. Anyway, so let me not take too much time at the beginning of this thing and let's get you started in talking about what we have going on here today in the show. I really think you're going to enjoy this episode as I get to talk to Willaim from WK Speakers. That's correct. Willaim builds better humans, and he's not shy to say it. He is also the executive director with the John Maxwell team. Certified in the DISC method of behavioral analysis and having been trained by Maxwell's organization, Willaim works with individuals, teams, companies, and non-leader dependent high-performing teams from the bench to the boardroom. I hope you enjoy our conversation here today with Willaim from WK Speakers on The Jay Allen Show. So I have to tell you, I normally don't ever have anything planned out because that's just kind of the way that it works with this thing. I just kind of go, we do some research on what we can find, and then we go from there. Are you fine with that?
Sure, absolutely.
Good. I love it that way because if not, then it just sounds like we're kind of robotic, and that kind of gets old.
Yeah, I know, right? Actually, my daughter and I have talked about doing a podcast because she's, I raised her to be a strong, independent thinking young woman. And it's come around to bite me in the ass a couple of times, but she's very liberal and I'm very conservative. But we have the ability to have, really difficult conversations, but still respect one another and just learn to agree to disagree. And we've thought about doing a podcast on that exact thing because that's something that this world needs more of right now. So.
Oh, absolutely. I think that's a great conversation starter, especially a great concept for a podcast, because it seems like you either have to watch or listen or do this, and that's the only people that I can speak to, according to the majority, or this other group. So it's either one way or the other. And I think that we need to sit down and have some of these conversations.
And that's largely what I speak on is, my tagline, as you saw on my social media, is I build better humans. And it's all based around the concept of until we can sit down around a table and have an open, honest conversation and respect each other's differences of opinion, we're never going to get this right.
So how did that come about for you? So let's start off with that. How did that come about? That tagline, and I would imagine has to turn people on and turn some people off all at the same time. So how did you come up with it?
I just literally pulled it out of my rear end. I mean, that's.
Well, I don't know if I should tie that in together. I build better humans, and I pulled it out of my rear end. That's kind of weird.
I pulled it out of left field.
Okay, good.
So I work really, primarily with DISC method of behavioral analysis. So part of what we'll talk about today is in my presentation I do for safety folks and conventions and whatnot is changing the BS in your BBS. And it's just changing that belief system. And it's all about helping people understand one another and, what are our strengths, what are our weaknesses, what are our fears, and helping people understand that just because I'm good at something that Jay's not good at, that doesn't mean Jay's not really great at other things. And if I bring Jay in to help me out, we can collaborate and we get the best of both of us. But so many times people say, "Well, I got to shore up this part of my being because it's not strong enough." Well, that's nonsense. My dad and brother both flew for the Navy, and when I was a kid growing up, you take all the standardized tests, and they say, you'd be a great engineer and all that. And I'm like, no, I have the intellect to do it, but I don't have the personality to. So I can do the math, I can do the spatial relations, I can put stuff together, but the desire to sit down and work out, complex equations, I'd rather go to the craft store, buy a knitting needle and just do a home lobotomy. Yeah.
So,
So,
when did you come up with this concept? So when did you say, okay, I'm open to the idea with working with strengths of other people and kind of collaborating together? Because a lot of people, let's just be realistic, are not open to that. So at what point in your career do you say, okay, this is what I would like to see?
you know, I'm a I'm a high I personality style, which means I'm very outgoing and relational. So I've always been that leader that's sought consensus from people that are different. I mean, my first part of my career, I was in the clothing business, and I had a very diverse group of people working together, and they worked together fabulously. But it was because we all appreciated the strengths of one another, and realized that we couldn't do it all. So I guess it's something I kind of intuitively have known my whole life, because my dad being the engineer, my brother being the engineer, they're at the opposite end of the spectrum from me. And it was, when I knew as a kid growing up, if I was going to have a conversation with my dad, it was vastly different than mom. Mom was pretty much, as long as you're not bleeding and you're home for dinner, it's good. Just go have fun. My dad wanted to know, where was I going? Who was I going with? What time was I going to be back? Was it going to cost any money? Was it going to be dangerous? That, like, forget it. I'll just go ask mom. So kind of understanding that, when I first got into professional sales, I worked for Prudential Insurance, and I sold group medical insurance. When I'm going through training, I learn, I'm reading the rate book, and I find out, well, architects and engineers get our best rates. And I thought, okay, well, that's great, but this is going to be like working with dad. But our rates were so good in that category, it was almost like giving the stuff away. So once you were able to deal with that personality style and understand how they made decisions, it was pretty simple. But I would literally sit in my car before going into a meeting and go through the mantra in my head. They think like dad, they think like dad, they think like dad. And I just knew that is I was going to give them every detail I could think of, and that they were going to ask me a ton of questions, because that personality style just requires more information. They just need to know everything. They got to have all the T's crossed, all the I's dotted, and then they have to process before they make a decision. So I just kind of intuitively knew that from dealing with my dad as a kid. So I would give them everything I could think of, and they would ask me questions, and I'd get back to them on a lot of stuff, because it wasn't stuff that I had readily at my disposal. So get it back to them, give them time to process, follow up, and I usually got the deal. But it was understanding at an intuitive level that they processed information differently than I did. And I fast forward more years than I'll admit, and I start studying human behavior, and I go, oh, I get it. That's that's their personality style, and here's mine, and they're literally at opposite ends of the spectrum. And their greatest fear for a C wired personality style, which is typically your architects, engineers, accountants, those kind of folks, is being criticized. So they will hold off making a decision until they have all the facts, so that they can make a decision that's rock solid.
So when you look at this, do you turn around and go that this is kind of adaptable to all industries? Because of course you said you were talking about insurance, and then you kind of fast forwarded a little bit, and now you also referenced a little bit ago about that you talked to a lot of people taking the BS out of BBS. But now that you're dealing with safety people, do you see that they do kind of the same style before they actually make a decision?
Yeah, yeah. It depends on what their level is, and most of the people that I'm dealing with are ASSP. I've spoken to a couple of the ASSP, their regional conferences, and I've spoken to a number of the local chapters on this. And yeah, the ones that are the engineering mindset. Yeah, absolutely.
But that's kind of the aspect that you've dealt with when you were younger, as you reference as well too, because of your brother and your father.
Right.
So when you look at this and you go, using the ASSP for an example, depending on where the person is inside of their career, do you almost see the same characteristics as you're having the conversation, where you go, okay, I can go here, here, and here, but if I say this, I'm going to turn them off?
A lot of that comes from just experience in working with people, and learning to read people's personality by the way they interact with you. Um, so, I mean, people that are in the safety role at the ASSP level tend to be more of that analytical type person. But you'll have a guy that's a leader on the floor, a shop foreman, that's the head of the safety committee, and he's likely going to be a completely different personality style.
Oh, absolutely. I agree with you 100% there. So as you're doing this stuff with the ASSP and then some of the regional ones, do you normally go into organizations as well and speak to some of the leadership that's there?
That's my plan. Yeah, and that's why I speak at conference. I'm always looking for leverage when I'm looking for speaking gigs. I want to be able to speak to a group of people that are within diverse companies. So speaking of the ASSP, I mean, I've got 50 people in the room. It's most likely I'm gonna have at least 40 companies represented there. And if what I'm telling them makes sense, then I've got access to 40 companies to go to work for.
So then let's kind of do some highlights then. So there's a reference that you have about the edge. So what is the edge? Tell me about the edge.
The edge.
Yeah, you have a portion that says that you give people the edge because you build better humans. What is the edge that you're giving them?
Well, the edge is, my belief is that self-awareness and emotional intelligence are the cornerstone of every relationship you'll ever have, both personally and professionally. And that edge is the ability to understand people that don't process or don't think the same way you do, and to be able to develop empathy for people that are different. And just like we started the conversation with, having the ability to have those open, honest conversations with people that are just different from us, whether it's racially or sexual orientation or whatever it is. If somebody processes information that is just different than we are, it's real simple. When you sit down with somebody and you're the same personality type, you just click. And then there's people that you just the conversation kind of feels like it's dragging on, and you're having to pull stuff out of them. Well, if you understand what their personality style is and you can speak to them the way they need to be spoken to, and provide them with information the way they receive information, then you're going to have a better opportunity to connect with that person. So it's all about, the edge is about being able to have, to connect with people that are different than you are.
So right now, because you get to speak to these different people, what are you seeing based on interactions afterwards that they're telling you that the disconnect that they're having with either their organization, their C-suite, maybe even their the same tier, or maybe the people that report to them? Are they telling you what they're seeing their failures based on the conversations you're having with them?
Not so much, unfortunately. Um, I, I don't really. I'm not getting as much feedback on what's going on in their organizations as I'd like to.
So right now, are you doing the majority of the stuff like via Zoom, or are we talking pre-COVID or pre whatever this mess is altogether?
Yeah,
Or
I've been speaking on this for about 3 years, and I've done this professionally full time since January of last year. So I'm just coming in on closing out my second year, and the first year was really just a matter of laying the groundwork and letting people know, what I'm talking about. Because I'd come out of a software sales role. And the reason I do a lot of work with ASSP is in my former job, I sold a software that was a content management for digital signage. So we did a lot of work with the safety field. So that's kind of my connection in there. And I've got, I've developed some relationships and friendships with people that are in ASSP, and that's kind of my connection with those guys.
you kind of already knew where I was going to go, because I was going to ask, how do you go from selling insurance to how do you make it here? Because I mean, it's not the easiest place to get to. Most of the times, it's either punishment and people got here by mistake. So I want to be like, how did you get here for sure?
How did people get in the safety role?
Yeah, right. Because that's normally what happens. It's either some punishment, somebody quit, we're going to move you there because we think you know some things about safety. So how are you enjoying it so far? So you're doing public speaking when, of course, it was available before, but how are you liking this? I mean, of course, doing the different things that you've done work-wise, and then now you get to interact with people that are inside of the field of safety. You get to speak to them at a high level. How are you liking that? Like, do you feel personal gain out of that?
I love it. I say I've been in the relationship business my whole life. I've just had 3 different products that I've sold, if you will. Early in my career, I was in the tailored clothing business. So I ran retail stores for Hart Schaffner Marks. And as I started getting ready to start a family, I realized that lifestyle of retail wasn't going to give me the freedom of my time that I wanted to be the kind of father I wanted to be. So I had a lot of clients that were in insurance. My stepfather had been with Prudential for years and years. So I made the transition over to financial services. I spent 15 years in that world, and then transitioned out of that into software sales in 2005 and did that through 2018. So I've always been in a relationship business. So it's always been about doing something that helped my client, either protect their family or in the software sales role, it was just helping them communicate with their team better.
So when you take the leap of faith of going out there and starting your own organization, and you say, "Hey, this is what I want to do. I want to go from the bench to the boardroom."
Right.
How does that actually work? How long are you sitting on this gem before you decide to pull the trigger and move forward?
In 2017, I was still with my software company, and I was working on a deal that would have been about 22% of their top line revenue for one deal. But it required them to make some changes to the programming, and they had some internal systems hangups that would make that difficult, and they were about to migrate to a different server, and they were going to have to write the software twice. So they just said, "We're not going to do it." So that kind of told me that they weren't in it for the long haul. So I started looking for my last career, basically.
Hold on, 22% of the revenue of the organization, they decide not to move forward with it?
Yep. Well, and
you would almost say you can't write this stuff. It kind of writes itself. Well, that's amazing.
And that was in early first quarter of 17, maybe early second quarter of 17, and by third quarter of 18, they were sold. So I saw the writing on the wall essentially. But anyway, so I stayed with them, and I started looking for content providers because I didn't really feel like I had a story that was sellable. And I've been a fan of John Maxwell's for years, so I joined John Maxwell's team, and so that's where I get a lot of my content from, or initially. But over time, as I'm developing my story and working with clients in different ways, I read a ton, so I pull information from all different sources. But the bench to the boardroom really is talking about within an organization. I use John Wooden's quote about when an opportunity arises, it's really too late to prepare. So within an organization, leadership has identified, a certain number of people within that organization that they see potential in. So what I do is I come in and talk to them about developing their leadership skills, so that when an opportunity comes for that person, somebody gets poached from another company, you have somebody retire, they want to open a new facility, a new branch, or whatever, or just organic growth. They need put together a new team, that they've got somebody that they can plug into that position that's ready to go. And if they're taking over a new team, there's not going to be any dip in performance of that team because this person is already up to speed. So that's what I talk about on the bench. Now we get to the boardroom. We hopefully within a board, we have a very diverse group of people. Unfortunately, most boards look like the founders, especially and I work primarily with small to medium sized companies, somewhere between 50 and 500 employees. So within that realm, they're typically privately held. They're probably still have the owner, the founder owner has some piece of the puzzle. There's a company I've just engaged right now that's the exact situation. The owner founder is 57 years old. He's doing very, very well. He started a nonprofit, so he's working on going from success to significance. But within the board, everybody pretty much looks like him. So what we really need is a board that has a more diverse background. People with that have different are from different cultures that just they think differently, and the work that I do within boards, and it can be for profit or nonprofit, doesn't really matter. But when you've got a diverse group of people, what we need to do is figure out how to get them to work better together. So again, I work with the DISC method of behavioral analysis. We do a DISC assessment on each one of the team. We debrief the entire group together, whether it's virtually or in person, so that everybody understands the strengths, weaknesses, fears of everybody at the table. And once everybody has that knowledge, then they have the ability to, as we said earlier, to realize, okay, well, Jay's really good at this and I'm really good at that. We can work together. And here's, if we're doing this type of project, here's the people we need to put together on the team to get that done. And if we're on video, the analogy that I use is I've got a nice ink pen that's got a gold clip on it. It's got a black barrel. So what I'll do is I'll hold the clip up to the camera and ask and say, look, if this is an issue or a topic that we're trying to discuss, and all you're describing is the clip, then I turn it around and show the side that I see, and all I see is the barrel. I think we're on different planets. I'm wondering what you're talking about because I don't see what you see. So with helping people develop that self-awareness and emotional intelligence, they have the ability to say, you know what, maybe that person sees something that I don't, and maybe I can be open to a new idea. And if that's the case, then I can listen to understand, not to respond. And that's one of the things that I teach at all levels, whether it's high school kids or boards of directors, is we've become a society that just wants to react. So when somebody says something, if it doesn't sit right with somebody, well, then they're just going to fire back and they're going to react to it. They're not going to respond. So just getting people to slow down enough to say, well, maybe they see something I don't. And one of the quotes that I work with a lot is from Viktor Frankl, who was a Holocaust survivor and a psychologist. And his statement or his quote is, between stimulus and response, there lies a space. And within that space, man has the opportunity to decide how he's going to respond. So it's all about what I teach is all about getting people to think differently. And that's what, changing the BS in your BBS is just changing your belief systems,
So let me ask a couple questions here. So when you go into an organization, as you were using the example, there's a lot of people that kind of look like the owner or the CEO, and you tell them, hey, there needs to be some diversity and inclusion here. How does that conversation normally go? Because especially if this is what they've built and they're a smaller company, being, as you said, between 50 to 500 people, how does that normally go for them? How do they take the information?
That's interesting because we just built a workshop on diversity and inclusion. And part of what we talk about in there is that companies that have a more diverse and inclusive workplace are significantly more successful than those that do not. And it's really because of the changing demographic. In the next 3 to 5 years, 75% of the workforce is going to be made up of millennials.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. So you said that you just build this course. We have to start telling people about your website. I don't want to leave them out, without them knowing where we're kind of hanging out, taking a look at some of these things.
Right on, wkspeaker.com. WKS are my initials, and speaker just fit in with the S on the end of my initials. So I'm a real creative kind of guy, as you can tell.
Well, it works as long as it works. So 75% of the actual workforce will consist of millennials. Do you think that things will change? And I'm going to ask kind of some strange questions here because we're getting a lot of these, we'll say the cancel culture and the woke culture, which means let's cancel people out now. I have a better understanding now of the world from this perspective. Do you think that will have huge impacts into the workforce going forward? And now, of course, I'm asking the crystal ball question. So we will take the answer however it comes about. But I understand that I'm asking for something to do predictions. And now, if you do hit it on the head, I do want lottery numbers next. So just keep that in mind.
I think the answer is it can't help but change, because as I'm a boomer, so as as the boomers start to retire, and the Gen Xers or whoever the ones are between us and the millennials, I look at my daughter. She's 28 years old, just turned 28. So she, like I said earlier, she looks at the world vastly different than I do. But at the end of the day, we pretty much want similar things. We do have a little different vision on what the world should look like, and could look like. So yeah, it's going to have to change. I mean, our generation changed it from our parents and grandparents, and I think it's just the evolution of society. The part that makes me sad is as you're talking about the cancel culture and the, we should be respectful of our history, and be able to teach and talk about it without getting wrapped around the axle. Sure, there's good and bad things that got this country where we are. I think I'm starting to feel like we're getting off on a different. I'm getting on a soapbox here, and I probably ought to hop off of it. But yeah, to answer your question directly, I don't think we can help but have the workforce change based on the way the younger generation, just the way they think and act and believe.
Okay, so let me ask a perspective question then, if you don't mind.
Sure.
Do you take a look at this, that there's almost like two different worlds that we live in at one time? And let me explain what I mean by this. So we have kind of our physical world that we live in, like you are right now, where you have a conversation with somebody in person and you're there and you have the conversation. But then there's also this digital world that we live in where it's these pictures, these videos, and we kind of change some of the perspectives of what people might think of us in person because of what they see digitally. Do you think that has an impact inside of the workplace?
Without a doubt. One of the things I talk about is that we tend to judge ourselves on what we know our weaknesses and failures are, and we tend to judge the rest of the world based on the highlight reel that we see on social media. So one of the pieces that I did a lot of work with early COVID, as people were first starting to figure out we're sequestered at home, our kids are not in school. I'm trying to figure out how to work from home. My spouse is at home now. My kids are at home. How am I supposed to do my job if I still have one? And all the stresses that comes with that changing environment. So the piece I did is called Family Stress to Family Best. And basically what it does is it helps parents look at their children or pay attention to their children and notice cues on how they respond to things or how they react, and help them understand that it's a 10,000 foot level presentation, but it gives them some tips and cues on how to understand what personality style their child may be. And if that's their personality style, here's how that personality style responds to stress. So when a parent can understand about their child that they're not acting out because they're trying to be little jerks, they respond to stress. And that's part of what emotional intelligence is understanding how things impact our ability to make decisions, how stressors or triggers impact our ability to get along with each other, how to respond. And a lot of times, if people aren't self-aware enough to understand that they're acting differently because they're stressed out, then they don't know. So what happens is the mammalian part of our brain, the animal part of our brain, just starts to react. So one of the things that we've seen is a huge rise in domestic violence and child abuse and those kind of things, because people are stressed out. They don't know how to talk about it. We as guys, especially we as guys, we just say, well, just suck it up, buttercup, just bear your feelings, damn the torpedoes, full speed ahead, go on. But if we understand that we're responding differently to our children, our spouses, or anybody in our lives because we're stressed out, if we can understand that, then we can say, hey, look, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to blow up. I'm just really stressed out about X, Y, or Z. Once we breathe it into the universe and we can talk about it, then we can change things, because you can't be aware of something until you're aware of it. And once you're aware of it.
Well, it's interesting that you say that, because you are seeing a lot more conversations now about emotional intelligence. Mm-hmm. You also are seeing conversations about depression. You're seeing conversations about people contemplating suicide. We're also seeing that the suicide rate has gone up since the pandemic.
Right.
So as you see these things and you speak about them, do you think this is becoming more closer to the forefront now? Or do you think that we still have tons of work to do to bring this to the forefront?
Yes. But yes, both. It is coming to the forefront more, but we still got a long way to go. Because, and one of the pieces I'm working on right now is a 6-piece and 6-unit program it was designed for kids in high school to help them understand, just basically how to think differently. And it starts off with a DISC assessment, helping them understand that. It talks about attitude and mindset. If you change your mind, you can change your outcome. And it's based on a quote that a buddy of mine and I came up with over dinner one night. And we said that your circumstances are no more responsible for your results or your actions than the mirror is for your appearance. So it's getting people, and interestingly enough, I use the same curriculum in a business accelerator program, because we got to teach people to think. And
so let me ask you, when you say that, because this kind of gives some perspective, if you don't mind, of course. Do you think that someone who might be born into privilege, and let's say, for instance, my parents have a leader jet, have the same thing as somebody who that was born into poverty with a single parent?
It's if you're born into privilege, then you have access to things that people that are born into poverty don't have.
Okay.
One of the other sayings I have, and people have to listen because it's close to something else, is You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it think.
Think, not drink. Okay, got it.
Right. So we can, and this goes back to my statement about we judge ourselves on our weaknesses and failures, and everybody else on the highlight reel.
Mm-hmm.
I work with CEOs that have deal with the same emotional issues that people that are they're worried about making their next rent payment have, and we've taught people how to do things. We haven't taught people how to think about how to do things. So, yes, if you've got privilege, you have access to it. The question is, and we see lots of people that have plenty of money that are born into extreme privilege that turn out to be useless because they
and I think it's a fair assessment, but I just wanted to get your perspective on it, because yes, I think that it's a combination of both. It's depending on whatever you decide to move forward with.
Right.
I think it depends on how you look at your perspective and how you want to proceed. So no, I mean, I don't think that there's a wrong answer. I definitely don't think there's a right answer either, but I just wanted to see what you thought about it.
Well, one of the things that in this program that I talk about is it's in the module on responsibility, and it's talking about whether you have an internal or external locus of control. So somebody that has an internal locus of control, for example, believes that they have control, that they understand that there's certain things that they can control, and that's what they focus on. They understand that there's events that they have no control over that will affect them, but they understand that that's not everything. Sure, something happened, COVID came up. I have no control over COVID. What I have control over is how I respond to COVID.
Right.
Okay, so I make sure that I wash my hands, I take my vitamins, I wear my mask, I make sure I don't get close to people that are sneezing or coughing or that kind of stuff. And then you've got people that have the external locus of control that believe that there's nothing that they can do about it, that it's just the world is just a dark, dingy place it just wakes up every morning to conspire on how they can make Willaim Sampson feel bad. And and just to get people to think past that. And a lot of times that has to do with privilege. People that have privilege think, well, okay, yeah, I have some ability to control this. Whereas people that are not born into privilege think that the world, I'm poor because my parents are poor, and they're poor because my grandparents are poor, and they just, if the back to the if you always do what you always did, you'll always get what you always got.
Right.
They don't. Nobody's helped them understand that they have the ability to, if they don't like your circumstances, all they have to do is change their thought process, and their thought process will change their habits, and their habits will change their outcome. So to understand that you have control over just damn near anything, and we look at people that have risen from, and I love Ben Carson, for example, with the story about Carson and his mom. She was a domestic, and she
Mhm.
realized that the environment that she worked in and the environment she lived in were vastly different. And what she recognized was the number of books that were in the house of the people that she worked for versus the number of books that were in the homes of the people she lived with. So she made Ben and his brother read a book. I don't know remember what the time frame was, but once a week, twice a month, whatever it was, and write a report for it. Well, Carson was in medical school before he realized or found out that his mom couldn't read. She had never been able to read any of the reports that they had written, but she still made him do it.
Right.
And he,
It's a great story with that, and that's the fun part about it. Now, let me ask something kind of strange here, because we talked about it briefly, but we really didn't take a dive into it.
Good.
You start talking about the disc profile.
Yep.
How old do you think someone should be when they do it the first time?
We and I say we, that's Maxwell's organization. We have um, reports based on DISC for kids as young as 8.
Okay.
So, and with the youngsters, it's all a matter of, this is where you get your energy from. Alan gets his energy from this, William gets his energy from that, Mikey gets his energy from that, Susie gets her energy from here. And one's not right or wrong or good or bad, they're just different. So that's part of, especially with with kids from 8 to 8 to 20, into their teens. That's part of that developing self-awareness and emotional intelligence. It's like, okay, because and it's part of what we talked about earlier was just because I get my energy from this and Alan gets his energy from that, one's not good or bad or right or wrong. They're just different. And when we can understand that it's okay and cool to be different, one of the things that goes away, or at least is reduced, is bullying. Because if a bully comes up to you on the playground and says, Alan, you're a blank, 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 and if you don't have any self-awareness, you go, gosh, maybe I am. So now you've taken on that which somebody else has placed on you, which is it's not yours to carry in the first place. But if you've got good self-awareness and the bully comes up and says, Alan, you're blankety, blankety, blank, and you go, no, I'm not. Oh, that's a different conversation.
Oh, absolutely.
And a bully can be 50 years old and be a CEO of the company, or it can be a line manager, or he can be a safety engineer.
No, it's very interesting on how you tie that in together, and I think it's great, especially if you're saying it's the young of age of 8. Now, here's another question for you regards to the DISC profile. How frequently do you think people should actually retake it?
Periodically. It's your basic core of who you are is not really going to change. It will change based on your circumstances sometimes. So, for example, if I'm working with an executive in his company, and he says, you know what, this would be really helpful for my family to do, so that we could understand the families. And that's part of what I was doing when I was with this summer and spring with the Family Stress to Family Best, is giving people kind of a 10,000-foot level, but also saying, look, if you're interested in doing an actual assessment of you and your kids and your family, and do the debrief within the family, I'll charge you to do that. But the seminar was free. But if we do it with an executive at work and he wants to do it at home, I'll say, I want you to retake the assessment based on what your role is at home. Because you may be a high-powered executive at home, but you get at home and typically mama wears the pants in a lot of areas. So you will respond differently to that assessment in the home environment as opposed to the work environment. So
absolutely.
I would definitely say if in that situation, it should be redone. But typically who you are fundamentally is probably won't change unless you're doing, if you're doing personal development and you're working on yourself and changing yourself, you will have better awareness. But again, it's probably not going to change who you are fundamentally.
Okay. And of course, I've heard different things. I've heard one guy say between 5 to 10 years, and I was like, that seems okay. But then I was like, kind of looked at it and I was like, does it make enough sense to do for it? And being as it's something it sounds like that you interact with quite often, I figured I would ask the question.
Yeah, and and DISC is just one of many assessments.
Right.
There's, I work with a guy. We're starting to do some partnership with a guy who's worked with a lot of really big companies like the Alcatels and Johnson & Johnson, those kind of folks. And he's got 15 different assessments, that assess, what are your cognitive skills? How do you, what are your value-based skills? How do you process information, from your perceptive styles or those kind of things. So looking at how you respond in different environments and different, just assessing different parts of the personality. And that's part of what I'm working on with this program, is that what I want to do is take this into schools where I will do the kind of the first part of it, where helping the kids do the assessments, understand their personality style, kind of get it started, and then the balance of it will be kind of a train the trainer thing for the teachers to facilitate the other 5 modules as they go through this. So
let me ask you this. So right now, with a lot of the stuff that you're mentioning, is this learning management systems that you have available via your website, or is this actual courses that you teach personally?
It's what I teach. And,
okay.
And part of what I will be doing toward the end of this year and first quarter of next year is making that more virtual, where it's available on my website.
Okay.
I think, again, back to you can lead the horse to water, but you can't make it think. I can have this all available on my website, but unless there's some triggering event to get somebody to go, you know what, I need that, and that's where it comes from me being out there speaking and helping make people aware. Because until, like I said earlier, until you can't be aware of something until you're aware of it. And so what my job as a speaker is to make people aware of ways that they can be better. They can be that better human. And they can be a better human by, first of all, understanding themselves and those that are close to them. Because one of the things that my frequent statements is, until you're the best version of yourself, you're not going to be the person that those who depend on you need you to be.
So true. I think truer statement has not been said. Now, if people want to know more information about you and the service offerings that you have, where can they go to find out more information?
My website, wkspeaker.com.
Well, I appreciate you coming on to the show today.
It's been my pleasure.
Well, I hope you enjoyed our conversation today with Willaim from WK Speaker. To find out more information about Willaim, go to wkspeaker.com. You've been taking a listen to The Jay Allen Show exclusively on Safety FM, the radio station, the podcast network, and whatever portion of the multiverse you want to be tied into. Anyways, always thank you for being the best part of Safety FM, and that is the listener. Safety FM is the home of real safety talk. Well, don't be worried. We'll be back with another episode of The Jay Allen Show before too long. Goodbye for now.
Want more of The Jay Allen Show? Go to safetyfm.com.
The views and opinions expressed on this podcast are those of the host and its guest and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of the company. Examples of analysis discussed within this podcast are only examples. They should not be utilized in the real world as the only solution available, as they are based only on very limited and dated open source information. Assumptions made within this analysis are not reflective of the position of the company. No part of this podcast may be reproduced, stored in a retrieval system, or transmitted in any form or by any means, mechanical, electronic, recording, or otherwise, without prior written permission of the creator of the podcast, Jay Allen.
You got into the safety business because you wanted to protect people, but somewhere along the way, the job started controlling your time, your schedule, your priorities, even your income potential. What if the expertise you've built over the years in the field can give you something more? More freedom, more control, more ownership of your future. I'm Sheldon Primus, the author of 7 Steps to Starting a Profitable Safety Consulting Business and the host of the Safety Consultant Podcast, with more than 350 episodes helping safety professionals become consultants and grow their career. Consulting changed my life. In fact, I'm a full-time RVer, and one consulting contract paid for my home I live in today. Now, I help safety professionals build their own consulting practice through bi-weekly coaching calls, accountability, and personal guidance. But this program isn't for everyone. Start with the Consultant Readiness Audit at sheldon.coach.
What if everything we thought we knew about safety was just interference? From the host of the Rated R Safety Show and the founder of Safety FM comes the complete signal transmission trilogy, now available in one powerful edition. Safety, in my opinion, the book that started the conversation. Safety Mutation, where the boundaries of culture, systems, and belief begin to break. And now, Safety Transmission, the final piece of the signal. For the first time, all 3 books are together in one volume. The Signal Transmission Trilogy, Complete Edition. This isn't just about compliance. It's about consciousness. It's about decoding the way we think, lead, and live, inside and outside the system. Whether you've been following the signal since the beginning or you're just now tuning in, this is the version to own. Search Signal Trilogy on Amazon or visit safetyfm.com to get your copy now.
You got into the safety business because you wanted to protect people, but somewhere along the way, the job started controlling your time, your schedule, your priorities, even your income potential. What if the expertise you've built over the years in the field can give you something more? More freedom, more control, more ownership of your future. I'm Sheldon Primus, the author of 7 Steps to Starting a Profitable Safety Consulting Business and the host of the Safety Consultant Podcast, with more than 350 episodes helping safety professionals become consultants and grow their career. Consulting changed my life. In fact, I'm a full-time RVer, and one consulting contract paid for my home I live in today. Now, I help safety professionals build their own consulting practice through bi-weekly coaching calls, accountability, and personal guidance. But this program isn't for everyone. Start with the Consultant Readiness Audit at sheldon.coach.
What if everything we thought we knew about safety was just interference? From the host of the Rated R Safety Show and the founder of Safety FM comes the complete signal transmission trilogy, now available in one powerful edition. Safety, in my opinion, the book that started the conversation. Safety Mutation, where the boundaries of culture, systems, and belief begin to break. And now, Safety Transmission, the final piece of the signal. For the first time, all 3 books are together in one volume. The Signal Transmission Trilogy, Complete Edition. This isn't just about compliance. It's about consciousness. It's about decoding the way we think, lead, and live, inside and outside the system. Whether you've been following the signal since the beginning or you're just now tuning in, this is the version to own. Search Signal Trilogy on Amazon or visit safetyfm.com to get your copy now.